Well, hello there everyone. If Hylics was a weird game, then Hylics 2 is just downright bizarre. No two ways about it. All the designs were based off the claymation work of the game's creator, Mason Lindroth, giving this game a visual style like no other. Not even Hylics 1 really, since that game was made in RPG Maker. And this game's weirdness also translates to its boss fights, and while there may only be 7 bosses in the game, they all feel far more distinct and intricate than anything from the first game, and that's likely helped by this game being way harder, and also, getting to see all these crazy designs in motion gives it a otherworldly feel. Unlike most boss rankings, I won't be using tiers for this list because I don't think any of these battles are necessarily bad, but at the same time, I don't know how the heck I'd objectively score half these fights. I'm just sort of going off gut feeling here. So let's dive on into one of the weirdest RPGs I've ever played. Number 7, Gibby Ready Vivus. I mean, there's not really much to say about this fight. It's your battle with the main villain that you can't possibly win. After a few attacks, he throws out dynamite which explodes with the power of multiple nuclear bombs, which leads to him mutating the entire population of the world, throwing you into the final act of the game. Though, interestingly enough, the larva wains remain unaffected, which I never realized when watching this cutscene before. It's a forced loss battle with no way to win, even through careful planning and exploits, so it's at the bottom of the list where it belongs. Number 6, the Cthulhu. There's a genuine debate if the Cthulhu even counts as a proper boss fight, since the regular battle theme plays here, but at the same time, this battle arena is only used for boss fights, so I don't know, I guess it counts. It's a bizarre variety of enemies, and your first fight with all 4 party members where you'll get to see just how bizarre these claymation monstrosities are in motion. The big eyeball dude is there for status effects, the weirdo in the back doesn't do much of anything, Cthulhu is your main threat, and then there's the pool man. What's the pool man do? Well, not only does he get jiggy with it, but he'll also clone himself to fill any spots that aren't currently filled with enemies. It's fine, it's an early game RPG boss, but without a central gimmick, it's the most normal enemy fight of them all, and I wouldn't be surprised if most people didn't even count this as a boss fight. I will say though, the battle themes in this game are pretty good. Chuck Salamone did a great job. And I do have to give serious praise to the visual style in this game. It's so bizarre and unlike anything else. I think NitroRad described it best when he said this game looked like a playable album cover, because yeah, it's something you wouldn't see in most other games. Number 5, Motor Hunter. This dude is the optional super boss of the game that guards access to the ultimate spell, Bombogenesis, which is basically Ultima or insert super nuke attack here. And what do you got? A dude trying to run you over in a car. That's actually pretty funny. Motor Hunter is capable of utilizing the 2 lance enemies as parts of his attacks, which can lead to him dealing a lot of damage because this game is actually pretty hard at times. But he can also just use his car to run you over sometimes. While his passenger, the Highway Fleam, mostly just plays the support role and doesn't really do too much. It's a decently thought out boss fight with some cool mechanics thrown in, but for the game's optional super boss, if you can even call it that, his stats are surprisingly on the low end, making it very easy to kill him in just a couple turns, and his primary attacks involve utilizing his lance or enemies that don't really respawn in a timely manner, so once they're gone, they're pretty much gone. Plus, I'm really not the biggest fan of the first purchase and dungeon crawling you have to go through to find the end of this place, especially considering this game doesn't come with a map, so it can be kind of a pain in the butt, even if I do like the games like Etrian Odyssey. Overall, it's cool that there's a secret fight down here, though it is weird how easy it is compared to what you'd probably expect your big optional super boss-like challenge to be. Number 4, Vuax. The first boss of the game and the big villain of Act 1, Vuax is your first real threat, flanked by 4 enemy T-Rows that are there mostly just for support and a bit of extra damage. Vuax, meanwhile, is a brute that tears into your party members, inflicting them with bad status effects on top of having far higher stats than anything and everything you faced up to this point. But that doesn't mean he's just going to hit you and do nothing else, because he does actually gain some extra attacks. Once his health drops below 100, you're very likely to see him use attacks like Spiky Radius, which is a very powerful AoE attack that hits everything, including his own allies, likely killing them in one shot, and he'll gain the ability to start using items, and I love how it's like whenever a enemy or character uses an item, they don't use the item, they deploy it. In this case, Vuax doesn't just use a cookie to heal himself, he will deploy a cookie to heal himself for a respectable amount of HP. Overall, He's a great first boss that's a decent challenge, and when slain you finally get your airship and begin to explore the world of Hylics 2 and all its weird and trippy imagery. There is also his late game counterpart known as the Vuaxian, but I don't believe he's actually a boss fight. He's just been reskinned into a strong late game enemy that appears in the final dungeon alongside some tougher enemies to make him kind of a tough fight. Regardless of that though, I've got to take a minute to praise the boss music. It really nails that surf rock shtick the game has got going for it, and yeah, it's really good. Overall, I think Chuck Salamone did an amazing job with this game's soundtrack. Number 3, Adozier and Caroso. I honestly thought Adozier was going to be the main antagonist of the game, given how he was built up throughout a fair bit of it, but turns out he's just the Act 2 bad guy. Adozier is a master of magic that loves casting dark spells because he's part of the Shadow Wizard Money Gang, and he's got a large arsenal up his sleeve. Unfortunately for him, that also means he has to follow the rules of those spells, and his powerful lightning attack is strong, and it's only otherwise ever seen on Pangorma, but it can stun him in the process, just like lightning spells will stun Pangorma. He utilizes a lot of the same spells that your party can use, which, again, has the same strengths, but also has the same drawbacks. You need to be careful in this fight, and screen nukes are a no-go because there's a giant wrapped monster on the side that's immune to all damage at the moment, and you really don't want to go pissing him off before you absolutely have to. Be careful in this fight. It's the one truly two-phase boss fight in the game. And after Adozier goes down, his caged beast Caroso will now begin to become enraged and gain multiple attacks per turn and unleash itself upon the party, and it looks like a creepy monster you'd see off of a Mr. Meaty episode or something like that. God, that shit was terrifying as a kid. Anyways, Caroso is a physical brute that's overall fairly simple to deal with, but he hits hard enough to be a massive threat to the player, and a lot of his attacks are capable of lowering your party members' defenses, making him even more dangerous if the fight has a chance to go on. And the fight stands out as the only true two-phase boss fight in the game, and a hard fight to be sure, but a fun one. Though, if I do have any gripes, it's the fact that I think this game as a whole, and it's especially prevalent in this fight, this boss has low status defense but also can buff his other stats, which means you're going to have like 4 different effects going on at once, and it just looks like an absolute mess when thrown over the enemy sprites at times. Granted, I believe this was patched to be not as egregious, but it was still pretty freaking funny back on when the game originally came out. Number 2, Von Thentropine. And here we have probably the most wild looking boss in the game. The visuals in this fight are probably the trippiest in the entire game, taking place on this endless stream of spaghetti, or whatever the heck. Yeah, whenever I make these sorts of videos, there's always that one boss I mentioned would probably be the one I would show somebody if I wanted to get them interested in the game. And I think Von Thentropine fits that bill pretty well. While this boss utilizes a bunch of different status effects like sleep and poison on the party, then performs attacks to deal more damage to them when they're asleep, like 100 Kick, which hits all party members multiple times, he's also not that hard. He's only the second major boss fight of the game. It's fairly basic, but the higher stats, the fact that you have a full party, and the really bizarre imagery make it a memorable boss fight that'll stick with you if only for how freaking weird this game is, and when he gets low on health, he actually has an enraged mode allowing him to perform multiple attacks per turn, which is at least a nice little shakeup, and I do appreciate when RPG bosses actually get harder as they get weaker, or at least try to do something different as their health goes down instead of just being a damage sponge that does the same 3 attacks over and over again. It's not an overly challenging boss fight, but it's an extremely memorable one nonetheless, and I think that's pretty good for, again, the second major boss of the game. Number 1, Lord Gibby. Oh, like the gibbous moon. Yeah, I was kind of thinking iCarly when I first read that name. I don't know why. Anyways, this is one of the most bizarre looking boss fights I've ever seen in a video game, but mechanically it's actually a pretty cool final boss. Gibby fights in a way somewhat similar to Princess Shroob from Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, where each of his attacks are determined by how many minions he has present in the arena. For example, at 0 minions, he'll summon 2 into battle. At 1 minion, he can use Gizzard Spume. At 2 minions, he can perform Teardown, and so on, with the idea that every time you hit him, he'll summon a minion to battle, but you need to be careful and juggle things here because you don't want to get overwhelmed by his backup. And they can also attack you and play support for Gibby. Still, it makes for a fun juggling act, and while the progeny aren't as serious threat on their own, they are capable of using items to heal Gibby, which can prolong the fight. Plus, there's one other thing I really have to praise about this boss fight, and that is the boss music. Chuck Salamone knocked it out of the park with the final boss theme that fits the surfer rock shtick of this game, while also going for a distinctly climactic feeling. But the real reason this fight is such a juggling act is because at 4 progeny, he'll be able to perform an attack called Weird Trees, which sacrifices all of his progeny to hit the entire party for over 400 damage, likely insta-killing everyone unless someone is defending when it comes out. So the idea is to make sure he doesn't get too many progeny on the field while also keeping the damage up so he doesn't heal off everything. It's a juggling act to be sure, but one I found quite enjoyable, and a genuinely well-made final boss on the mechanical level while also having some trippy visuals. Overall, a great final boss. I like it a lot. And that's going to do it for this video. Hylics 2 is a weird game, and even that is putting it lightly. But it's a game that'll stick with you, and if you've got 8 or so hours to kill, I can recommend giving it a try. That's all I've got for now. If you like this video and want to see more content of varying quality, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.